It's just said my speech title is Do We Need Walls About Texting and Driving? I'm going to make a few brief points to make a point about why this isn't a bad thing and why it's an issue that's very important because of destruction and cost of property and people's lives. But I'm going to approach it from a little bit different angle. Texting and driving ban has strong support. There's an article recently from Saturday, actually, in the St. Tampa Bay Times, the newly titled paper. And what I'd like to do is I'd like to make 3 points about why we do not need this law as it is being proposed, but I will make the point that texting and driving currently is covered under current laws and why you should not be doing it because of the very dangerous aspect of doing that. I will cover laws that we currently have that would provide punishments and sanctions for texting and driving along with other things. I'll talk about ways we can educate people, and I'll talk about why every person should take their own personal responsibility to make the right type of decisions. Currently in Florida, there are laws for reckless driving that carry penalties. Actually, you might be surprised to find out that in the current Florida statutes, the penalty for reckless driving is 90 days imprisonment or up to a $500 fine. I can tell you if I had a speeding ticket for $500, I wouldn't be speeding anywhere. Especially if I could go to jail on top of that as well. So reckless driving, you would ask, what is reckless driving? It's described as, in the law, willful and wanton disregard for safety of people or property. I think you could describe that as the person that makes a right turn out of the left turn lane or cuts across 5 lanes of freeway traffic to get off of their exit because they didn't plan. It definitely puts people's lives and property at risk and in danger. So, if you're texting unsafely, I would think that was willful disregard for people's safety, especially if you're weaving lanes while doing it or running a stoplight or speeding. So, I feel that this is already covered by current laws, and I would like to see people pulled over for other things as well that are reckless, such as changing lanes, whether or not it's done unsafely while texting or just unsafely altogether. We also can have public officials speak out about this. We've had a variety of public service announcements about this. I have seen one, I believe, with the Florida Highway Patrol, and I think I've even seen some state legislatures and the governor speak out about this. I know they've done it in other states. They could also have the Florida State Patrol or the Sheriff's Department, the local police department, bring this to people's attention as to why it's a problem, also highlighting, once again, the fines for reckless driving and the penalties. I think many of us agree that in our culture, celebrities have a lot of influence and sway over people's opinions. If you look at Oprah and several other celebrities, they've taken a strong stand on this. They've had people sign pledges not to text and drive, and brought a lot of other important issues to light for people to think about to make better decisions. I think these people may have more platform than many of our elected leaders even as well. Thirdly, I think people should take responsibility for their actions. Texting and driving is not only a problem we face while driving. We all make personal choices whether to talk on the phone. I'm not saying it's always a bad thing to talk on the phone, but the statistics point out that probably your chances of an accident are greatly increased. So, we make those type of choices. Are we reading our newspaper while driving down the street, which I've seen people do driving down 275 before? Are we reading a map? I'm not sure if you use maps anymore. You could be staring at your GPS, I suppose. So, texting and driving is dangerous. Like I said, it causes death and destruction of property, just like drunk driving, speeding, and some of those other things I just mentioned. Obviously, there's penalties for drunk driving, but if you were driving drunk and weaving around, they could charge you with reckless driving. I think people should ask themselves, what is the worst that could happen based on my decisions? If I send this text message, maybe it is for a business deal, maybe it's to tell your wife something, maybe it's to tell a joke to your friend. What is the worst that could happen? I don't want to tell a joke or close one extra business deal to crash into the car in front of me and kill somebody or myself. So in conclusion, like I said, I think we should educate people, take their own personal responsibility. We should educate them and encourage people to take their personal responsibility. We should point out the penalties for reckless driving that currently exist, and I believe there should be more enforcement of that as possible. Not that our police and law enforcement don't have enough duties and responsibilities already, but there are lots of unsafe drivers on the road. Back to one point I wanted to make about the law as proposed. Maybe if the law as proposed was proposed in a stricter way, maybe I would say we should support that law. But the current law as proposed is a secondary offense, which means you must be speeding, driving unsafely, running a traffic light. You're fined $30 for the first offense. I'm not sure $30 is much of a deterrent to me, and I'm not sure that many people get pulled over for it anyway. So I think we should encourage people why it's the right thing to do. I think it has more effect. I think currently it's proposed, it's going to give politicians more incentive to say they did something good, and we may spend a lot of time debating it when really we should enforce the law we already have. Thank you, Mrs. Toastmaster.